Did you know that less than 5% of people ever reach the level of success they dream about? That means for every 100 people you see walking down the street, 95 will never live the life they once imagined for themselves. They'll settle for less, stop halfway, or give up when it gets hard. And that number is shocking because it tells us something most people don't want to admit. Success isn't common, and it's not supposed to be. It belongs to those who dare to be uncommon. Now here's the real question. What makes those 5% different? Is it luck? Were they born into wealth? Or did the universe just choose them at random? We love to think that successful people have some kind of unfair advantage because it makes us feel better about our own struggles. But if you look closely, you'll find that luck and privilege can only take someone so far. The truth is, the people who rise above the rest almost always share certain traits, habits, mindsets, and disciplines that make them stand out in ways most people ignore. Think about it. If success were only about talent, then the most talented kids in school would always grow up to be the most successful adults. But how many do you know who had all the talent in the world, yet wasted it? If success were only about hard work, then every person working long shifts just to survive would be wealthy and fulfilled. But that's not the case either. The secret lies somewhere deeper. How successful people think, how they act under pressure, how they use their time, and how they refuse to quit when everyone else does. And here's where it gets personal. I don't just want to talk about what makes them different. I want to test it. For the next week, I'm going to attempt something bold. I'll take the habits, the disciplines, and the traits of highly successful people, and I'll apply them to my own life. No shortcuts, no excuses, just a full-on experiment to see if these traits really do make a difference. Because it's one thing to study success from the outside, but it's another to live it, even if only for a short time. But let's be honest, this won't be easy. Highly successful people aren't wired like everyone else. They wake up earlier. They manage their energy with precision. They focus on long-term goals instead of instant gratification. And they build a mindset that's nearly impossible to shake. The question is, can I step into that mindset even for a few days and feel the difference for myself? Can I prove that the same qualities that built empires, launched companies, and changed the world can also change my own life in a tangible way? So here's the challenge. I'm diving deep into the habits and traits that set highly successful people apart, and I want you to come with me. Because if success leaves clues, and it always does, then maybe we can start uncovering them together. And maybe, just maybe, by the end of this journey, you'll realize that those traits aren't reserved for the chosen few. They're available to anyone brave enough to adopt them. The only question is, will you? Success. It's a word that gets thrown around everywhere. On social media, in schools, in business, in everyday conversations. We all chase it. We all dream about it, and yet so few of us actually taste it. But here's the truth. Success doesn't just happen to people. It doesn't fall into your lap one morning, and it doesn't arrive in the form of a magic opportunity. Success is built, brick by brick, habit by habit, decision by decision. The people who stand at the top, the ones we admire, didn't get there by accident. They got there because they learned what separates the average from the extraordinary. And that's exactly why it's worth studying them. You see, most of us spend years guessing, trying random strategies, hoping something will stick. But highly successful people, they don't guess. They operate with clarity, purpose, and consistency. They follow principles that have been tested and proven through struggle, through failure, and through relentless discipline. If we can uncover what those principles are, if we can shine a light on the patterns behind their success, then suddenly, success stops being a mystery. It becomes a formula, and formulas can be applied by anyone willing to do the work. Yet, here's the catch. Society feeds us countless misconceptions about success. We're told it's about luck, or about who you know, or about working 18-hour days until you collapse. But that's not the whole story. In fact, those ideas often keep people stuck, chasing the wrong things and burning themselves out. The real differentiators are often invisible to the naked eye. Mindset, resilience, self-control, the ability to say no when the whole world is pressuring you to say yes. Success isn't loud, it's quiet. It's built in the small, daily choices no one else sees. Think about someone like Steve Jobs. Most people remember him as a visionary who changed technology forever. But what people often forget is how obsessed he was with focus. Jobs famously cut down Apple's product line from dozens of projects to just 4 core products. Why? Because he believed that doing fewer things with absolute excellence would always be trying to do everything at once. That's not luck. That's a mindset. And that same principle can apply to anyone. In any area of life, if they're willing to be disciplined about what truly matters. Or take Oprah Winfrey. Her story wasn't written in privilege. She rose from poverty, from struggle, from pain, and built one of the most influential empires in the world. Her key trait? Resilience. She turned every setback into a stepping stone, every hardship into fuel. Where most people see obstacles, highly successful people see opportunities to grow stronger. That shift in perspective is part of what makes them stand out. Not because life is easier for them, but because they respond to difficulty in a way most people won't. The point is, success isn't reserved for a secret society of geniuses or billionaires. It's not about luck falling from the sky or talent handed out at birth. It's about learning, modeling, and applying the traits that have already been proven by those who've done it before us. And if we're willing to look closely, to pay attention, and to practice those same principles, we can stand out too. Because success doesn't discriminate. It only rewards those who are bold enough to commit. So as we step into this journey, remember this. We're not just here to admire successful people from a distance. We're here to break down what makes them different and to test it for ourselves. Because once you understand what sets the extraordinary apart from the ordinary, you can start making choices that push you closer to the life you dream about. And the moment you make that decision, that's when everything changes. Here's the problem. Most people want success, but very few are willing to pay the price that success demands. We live in a world obsessed with shortcuts, get-rich-quick schemes, overnight fame, instant gratification. Everywhere you look, there's a promise that you can have everything without sacrifice. But the truth is brutal. Success has never been easy, and it never will be. The gap between the life you want and the life you have is filled with hard decisions, discipline, and relentless consistency. And that's exactly where most people fall apart. One of the biggest misconceptions is that successful people were simply born different. We love to tell ourselves that they had natural talent, wealthy families, or lucky breaks. Why? Because it excuses us from trying. If success is about luck, then we can shrug and say, well, I just wasn't chosen. But look deeper, and you'll see that so many of the world's most successful people started from nothing. Broken homes, financial struggles, failures, and rejections. What set them apart wasn't luck. It was the decision to keep going when everything around them screamed to stop. Another challenge comes from the way society conditions us. From the time we're kids, we're told to follow the safe path. Get a stable job, don't take risks, play it safe. And while there's nothing wrong with stability, it often kills ambition before it even has the chance to grow. Highly successful people stand out because they refuse to let society's definition of normal box them in. They created their own rules, their own paths, and their own standards of what was possible. That kind of courage doesn't come easy, and it's why so many people remain stuck in mediocrity. Then there's the issue of discipline. Everyone loves the idea of success until they realize it requires doing things you don't feel like doing day after day, for years. Waking up earlier, staying focused, saying no to distractions, sacrificing short-term pleasure for long-term gain. These aren't glamorous habits. They're uncomfortable, often lonely, and they demand a level of self-control most people have never built. And yet, it's exactly in those unglamorous choices where success is born. That's why you see so many people start strong and fade quickly. They crave results without embracing the process. Fear is another invisible wall. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of wasting time. Most people let fear dictate their actions. They don't start the business they dream about. They don't speak up with their ideas. They don't take the risk that could change their lives because the thought of failing is too heavy to carry. But here's the irony. The people who stand out the most are often the ones who failed the most. They embraced failure as part of the journey, not as the end of it. They understood that failure teaches you more than success ever could. And perhaps the biggest challenge of all is consistency. Anyone can be motivated for a day, a week, even a month. But can you keep showing up for years, even when no one's watching, even when the results are invisible? That's where most people fall off. They want immediate validation, instant success, quick wins. But highly successful people, they play the long game. They commit to the grind, even when it feels like nothing's happening. That's why they stand out, because while others stop, they keep moving forward. So the challenge is clear. It's not that we don't want success, it's that we misunderstand it. We think it's about talent or luck, when in reality, it's about traits that anyone can build, but few actually do. And until we confront these misconceptions and challenges head-on, success will always seem like something out there, instead of something we can create for ourselves. If there's one thing you notice immediately about highly successful people, it's their mindset. They don't think like everyone else. Where most people see limitations, they see possibilities. Where others see failure, they see lessons. It's not about being blindly optimistic. It's about training the mind to search for solutions instead of excuses. Carol Dweck calls it the growth mindset, and it's one of the most powerful weapons in the toolbox of the successful. Imagine looking at every challenge not as a roadblock, but as a chance to grow stronger. That's how they think, and that's why they move forward while others get stuck. The second trait that sets them apart is resilience. Life will knock you down. It always does. But highly successful people have a unique ability to get back up again and again, no matter how many times they fall. Thomas Edison famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Most people would have quit after 10 attempts. Edison didn't even call them failures. He called them discoveries. Each failure wasn't the end, but a step closer to success. That kind of resilience separates those who dream from those who achieve. Another key factor is time management. Successful people treat their time like gold because they understand it's the one resource you can never get back. They prioritize ruthlessly, saying no to anything that doesn't align with their goals. Warren Buffett once said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." That's focus at the highest level. While most people scatter their energy across dozens of distractions, the truly successful double down on what matters most. And that's why their results are multiplied. Then there's self-discipline, which might be the single greatest differentiator of all. Motivation comes and goes. It's emotional, unreliable, and temporary. Discipline is different. Discipline shows up even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is the reason successful people work when they're tired, train when they're unmotivated, and keep pushing when no one's clapping for them. It's the invisible muscle behind every great achievement, and it's built in the moments where most people give in to comfort. We also can't ignore vision. Highly successful people aren't just reacting to life, they're creating it. They don't drift aimlessly, they move with clarity and purpose. Martin Luther King Jr. had a vision of racial equality before it was even remotely possible. Elon Musk has a vision of colonizing Mars, while the rest of the world is still debating electric cars. Vision pulls successful people forward. It's the North Star that keeps them going when the present feels impossible. Without vision, effort is scattered. With vision, effort becomes destiny. Another trait is continuous learning. The most successful people in the world are lifelong students. They read, they ask questions, they surround themselves with people who challenge them. Bill Gates is known to read about 50 books a year. Why? Because he knows that success isn't a destination. It's a process of constant evolution. Most people stop learning after school. Successful people never stop. They grow, adapt, and reinvent themselves to stay ahead of the curve. Finally, there's the trait of execution. Ideas are everywhere. Everyone has them. But execution is rare. Successful people don't just talk about their dreams. They take relentless action. They don't wait for perfect conditions because they know perfection never comes. They start messy, they adapt along the way, and they refine as they move. This bias toward action is what turns vision into reality. While others wait for the right time, successful people create the right time by moving forward now. When you put all these traits together, mindset, resilience, time management, self-discipline, vision, learning, and execution, you start to see why highly successful people stand out so dramatically. They're not superhuman. They've simply built habits and disciplines that most people are unwilling to maintain. And because of that, their results look extraordinary to the outside world, even though they're the product of very ordinary choices made consistently over time. Here's the moment of truth. When you study highly successful people long enough, you start to realize it's not one single trait that makes them extraordinary. It's not just their mindset, or their discipline, or their resilience. The real key is the combination of these traits, stacked on top of each other, lived out consistently until they create an unstoppable force. Success isn't about doing one thing right, it's about doing dozens of little things right every single day until the world has no choice but to notice. And maybe the most powerful example of this comes from someone like Michael Jordan. People remember him as the greatest basketball player of all time. But what they often forget is that he didn't even make his high school varsity basketball team at first. Imagine that. The man who would go on to redefine sports was once told he wasn't good enough. Most people would have quit right there. But Jordan didn't. He combined his anger with discipline. He turned rejection into motivation. He built a mindset where every setback was fuel, not failure. And over time, the habits he stacked, relentless practice, ruthless competitiveness, an unshakable belief in himself, transformed him into a legend. This is the essence of what sets successful people apart. They don't avoid pain, they embrace it. They don't run from challenges, they lean into them. Where others see walls, they see doors. And it's not because they're fearless. It's because they've trained themselves to act in spite of fear. That's the critical shift. That's the turning point. Success isn't about being born with something special. It's about developing the traits that turn ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. And here's the insight that should shake you. Every single one of those traits is learnable. Discipline is a muscle. Mindset is a practice. Resilience is built, not gifted. Vision is chosen. Execution is a decision. The reason highly successful people seem so rare isn't because the traits are rare. It's because the commitment to practice them is rare. Most people want the rewards without the responsibility. Successful people choose the responsibility, and that's why the rewards follow. Think about it. What if you stopped seeing success as a mystery and started seeing it as a pattern? What if instead of waiting for inspiration or opportunity, you began to train yourself in these very traits, one by one, day by day? Imagine how much different your life could look in a year or 5 years if you stacked resilience on top of discipline, vision on top of execution, and growth on top of learning. The compound effect of those choices could be staggering. That's the breakthrough. That's the moment everything clicks. Success isn't about luck. It's not about talent. It's about a series of choices that most people ignore. And the people who stand out, they're the ones who don't ignore them. They're the ones who commit, who keep going, who outlast the competition. That's what makes them legendary. And that's the truth that can change everything. For me, for you, for anyone willing to step up. So when you step back and look at it, the picture becomes clear. Highly successful people don't stand out because of luck, wealth, or some mysterious talent the rest of us don't have. They stand out because they live by principles that most people only talk about. They've built their lives on habits that compound over time, and that's what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. At the core, it all begins with mindset, choosing to see opportunities where others see dead ends. Then it's strengthened by resilience, the ability to rise from failure again and again without losing heart. It's sharpened by discipline, the quiet force that shows up even when motivation disappears. And it's multiplied by vision, by the courage to pursue something bigger than yourself, something so compelling it pulls you forward no matter how heavy the obstacles are. But it doesn't stop there. Successful people protect their time like it's treasure. They learn endlessly, knowing that knowledge and adaptation are their greatest allies. And perhaps most importantly, they act. They don't wait for perfect timing or flawless plans. They move, they build, they adapt, they refine, because they understand that ideas are cheap, but execution is priceless. The key takeaway is this: none of these traits are out of reach. They're not magical, and they're not locked away. Every single one of them can be built through daily practice. The only real difference between those who succeed and those who don't is this: most people stop. They stop when it gets hard. They stop when they fail. They stop when it takes longer than expected. The successful, they keep going. That's it. That's the entire difference. And maybe that's the most empowering part of all. You don't need to be born into privilege. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need someone else's permission. What you need is the decision to adopt the traits that have already proven to change lives. What you need is the discipline to keep going when others quit. And what you need is the courage to believe that you too can stand out if you're willing to pay the price of success. So as we close this journey, remember, success isn't about luck, talent, or chance. It's about traits. Traits that you can choose, practice, and live. And the moment you start practicing them consistently is the moment you stop being average and start standing out. Because if success leaves clues, then those clues are right here in front of us. The only question left is, will you follow them? Now I want to hear from you. Which of these traits do you feel you already have, and which ones do you know you need to build? Drop your answer in the comments, because writing it down isn't just about engagement, it's about accountability. When you declare it out loud, even in a simple comment, you've taken the first step toward change. And who knows, your words might inspire someone else who's watching this video right now. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry. You don't have to master every trait overnight. Start with one, just one. Maybe it's waking up earlier to claim more time for yourself. Maybe it's reading 10 minutes a day to sharpen your mind. Maybe it's practicing discipline by finishing the tasks you usually put off. Small wins build momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Remember, success isn't about giant leaps. It's about tiny, consistent steps that compound over time. If you've made it this far, it means you care about your growth. Don't let that energy fade away. Take one action right now. Comment, share, write down a goal, or make a plan. Action locks in what you've learned. Without it, this just becomes another video you watched and forgot about. With it, this could be the turning point that shifts your life in a whole new direction. And if this message hit you, then don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs it, a friend, a colleague, even a family member who might be stuck in the same old cycle. Sometimes all it takes is a single perspective shift to wake someone up. Be the person who plants that seed in someone else's life. That's how change spreads. Also, if you want to go even deeper into success and mindset, I've got another video lined up for you. In it, we dive into insert related video topic, e.g. the 7 enemies within that hold you back. It connects directly with everything we talked about today, and it will give you even more tools to push forward. So when this ends, click over and keep feeding your growth. Don't stop here. Keep moving. At the end of the day, success leaves clues. You've just seen them. Now the real challenge begins. Will you pick them up? Because I can promise you this, if you commit to even a fraction of these traits, you'll start standing out in ways you never imagined. And maybe a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you'll look back at this moment as the day you stopped watching and started building.